Okay, so welcome back to part two of this networking tutorial for the Windows Client Server Network. I'm going to start my Windows 2019 server. So that's restoring in the state that it shut down last time. And I'm actually just going to wait a few seconds, as it says on the screen. Right, there we go. There's my Windows machine up and running, and I'm going to now start the Windows 10 client. So let's get that up and running. Now, the Windows 10 client was actually off, so we'll let that boot from scratch. Now, let me just get the Windows. Right, so from last time, I set up Active Directory domain services, and at the very end of the video of part one, I added on there was just about 3 or 4 minutes on how to finish off DNS. So at the moment, we should have these roles running within the server: Active Directory domain services, the DNS service, file and storage services, and this local server, all servers, and all that are there by default anyway. So I'm just going to click on the local server here, and usually it should say that everything's okay. Now, you might occasionally get some little yellow alerts that pop up here, but you can quite easily just silence those. Just click on them and say acknowledge, that's fine. You know, little things come up. So what I'm going to do is just open up the command prompt here. Let's just check, let's just remind myself. ipconfig. Right, so 10.10.10.1, and let's get logged into this. Oh no, don't tell me I've forgotten the password. $, and an E at the end. No, I've remembered it. Michael's College. Fingers crossed. Worst thing you can ever do is forget the password on one of these things, but it looks like we're fine because it would have rejected me by now if we weren't in. So at the moment, ipconfig on its own gives us the IP address and the subnet mask, okay? But what we actually want is we want a little bit more information here. So let's do ipconfig/all, okay? And that's going to give us all of the network information. Right. Now, what that's done is that's now going to give us the domain name that we set up when we set up the Active Directory. It's sc.com, okay, which can stand for Security or Scotland. It's just my example domain. So what I'm going to do, okay, is we're going to try and ping, okay, sc.com. All right, well, let's just try and do 10.10.10.1 first. Okay, so the server's replying to itself. That's ideal. So let's do now sc.com. sc.com. Good. The server's also replying on its domain name. So the Active Directory domain service is running, and this server is now aware that its address is sc.com. And when we type, I'll just clear this, when we type ping sc.com, right, we don't get a reply from sc.com. What we see is the computer resolves sc.com to 10.10.10.1 and knows that sc.com lives on this server. So let's just go over to the client machine and let's do the same, an ipconfig, and we have 10.10.10.2. So let's ping 10.10.10.2 to check that this can talk to itself at least. Great. Let's try 10.10.10.1 to make sure it can speak to the server. Very good. Excellent. And finally, can the client machine see the sc.com domain? Let's just test. Ping sc.com. sc.com. No. Okay. The reason it can't is because what we're asking the computer to do is we're asking the computer to take a domain name and resolve it to an IP address, okay? But we haven't told it who to ask, so for example, when you on your computer, you go and you type www.bbc.co.uk, your computer goes away and asks a server what the IP address of the BBC is, and that server, the DNS, the domain name server, replies and says it's actually this IP address. It's xy dot, 12.34.56.78. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to tell this computer who to ask. All right, and how we're going to do that? We're just going to go into Network and Sharing Center. So let me just scroll down, Network and Sharing Center, and change adapter settings. And then in this machine here, we're going to go to TCP/IP version 4. Now, at the moment, we have used the following DNS server addresses, and we've actually got nothing in here. So see if we put 10.10.10.1 in here and click OK, click close, and then we go over here and we try to ping sc.com. You'll see now it's replying from sc.com because we've said to it, use this as your domain name resolution server. So that's great. We've got connectivity working between the client, and DNS is resolving from the client to the server. We know that's all working. So now we can go back to Server Manager and have a look at what we're going to do next. So we've set up our sc.com. The way that so in the past we went manage, add roles and features to add Active Directory. We're going to go to tools, and Active Directory users and computers is where we can do some controls on the Active Directory. So let's just head into here. Right. So this screen here is called the Microsoft, or is called a Microsoft Management Console, an MMC. Okay, and what actually happens with an MMC is you click on stuff over here in this panel, the left, and things happen in the right. So if we were to click on sc.com domain, you'll see stuff happens here. And if we were to go to, let's say, computers, there are no computers in the domain. It does see itself, the domain controller, and I'm not sure what other stuff's going to happen here. Now this one, users, let me just close this alert. This is all the built-in groups in the Active Directory. Okay, so at the moment, what we have is we have a server and a client. Okay, and they can ping each other, right? They can see each other on the network, but we haven't set up a Windows client server network, and that's what we're going to do just now. So we're going to go back to our client machine, and we're actually going to add it to this domain, and I'm going to show you how to do that just now. So let's go down to, I'll make this a bit bigger so it's easier to see. I think it's right control and C to make it snap to size. There we go. That should be easier for everyone to see. So the way to add this to the domain is we go to settings, and then we go to, put me on the spot here. What are we in? Status. Let's go home. Home of settings. Right. It's been a wee while since I've done this. System. And down to the very bottom, and about. And down to the very bottom, and somewhere rename this PC is what we want. Now, you might think that's quite a difficult thing to get to. Yes, it is. They've made it as difficult as possible. You can use a combination of letters. That's not what we want. We want to get into system info. All right. Now, on Windows 7, it was much easier to get to this screen. Windows 10, they've just made it a little bit difficult. But the place that we're trying to get into is this advanced system settings. So let's get in here. Then the place we're trying to get to is this computer name tab. Then the place we're trying to get to is to rename this computer or change its domain, the domain or workgroup. Click change. So let's click change. Now, at the moment, Windows computers by default are in a group called workgroup. Okay. What we want to do is we want to make them join a domain, and the domain we want to make them join is the domain that we created called sc.com. So if we say sc.com, and we know that this client machine can see sc.com because we pinged it a minute ago. So let's click join sc.com and let's click OK. Now, this is great. This shows you that it's working. If you're ever out on the floor and you do this and this pops up, you know that this computer can talk to the server. So let's log in as administrator and put in the administration password for the domain. Okay, so I think it's Michael's colleague, and let's click OK, and hopefully I did that right there. Fingers crossed. Now, this should be, there we go, look at that. Welcome to the sc.com domain. Good. Now, next thing we want to do, restart the computer, let that client restart, and let's head back over to the server. So let's just jump over to here. Now, what we want to do is we want to create a test user, an example user that can log in. So let's right click here and let's go to new and let's go to user. And we're going to call this user, just going to make a user up. Let's call him John, last name Finance. John Finance, okay? From that you can get that he's John and he works in the finance department. Or should I give him a less silly name? No, let's make his logon name jfinance@sc.com. And if you were running a really good IT system, that would also be his email address as well. So you keep everything dead simple. So John Finance username jfinance. So let's click next. And then a password for jfinance. I'm just going to use the classic domain password just now. And I'm going to put a capital E, and then I'm going to go Michael's College. And then let's do the same again. Capital E, Michael's colleague. Right. Now we can set at this point whether he can change his password, whether it expires, whether it's account. Let's just say we don't want him to change his password at first logon. In reality, you would, okay? Let's just say that he can't change his password just now, just to make it easier. So everything's on the same password. So when you click finish, this new user will be created. So let's hit finish. Right, so we now have a user in our domain called John Finance, okay? So let's head back over to the client machine. So let's go. Now, I swear I told this to reboot itself. Don't tell me I'm going, oh, so silly. Right, restart now. Okay. While that's rebooting, let's head back over to the server then, do something else. So I'm going to right click on my domain here, and this is where you can set up permissions and things. So let's go for a new group. Okay, and we're going to call this group Finance. All right, and we're going to make it a global security group. Let's click OK. And later on, what we can do is we can share drives, folders, permissions on documents within the server. And we can say only members of that group can be allowed to do that. So let's jump over to John Finance, okay, and click Add to Group. And then we're going to, this is a little searching thing. So if you click Check Names, there's the finance group there. So let's just click OK, the add group. So now we've got John Finance, and if we click on his profile properties, there should be a tab called Member Of up here. And we can see that he's in the finance group. He's also in the users group. They go into the users group by default. Right, hopefully the client machine should have rebooted itself by now. Let's jump over. Oh, now, so just to recap on what's happened there, I've created a domain, I've tested layer 3 IP connectivity between the server and the client, then I've set up a DNS server for sc.com, I've validated that the domain name of the server will resolve, then I've added the client machine to the domain, and you're going to see that this is going to be slightly different here. Okay, so sometimes it doesn't catch straight away. Michael, okay, is a local account on the machine, but we want to log into a domain account. So let's click Other User. See here it says sign into SC. That's what we want to do. We want to join the SC domain. So I can put JFinance like that, or I can use his fully qualified domain name just because this is the first time. And we can do SC/JFinance. And another way we can do it is we can do jfinance@sc.com. All right, both of those are valid, and you can see Windows down the bottom is changing it. So we're gonna try and do it without adding too much there. Let's just bang in his password. So jfinance, and his password is Michael's colleague. And let's go. Aha! Here he is, John Finance. So John Finance is now logging in to his domain account. All right. And what we've done is, oh, here we go. This is his first logon. So what we've done is we've taken control away from the client machine, and we're now managing it from the server. So let's say, all right, a new member of staff were to arrive. We just right click here, all right, and we just click new, and we just click user. And then we add, let's say the next one's called Sarah. All right, and Sarah, last name, let's make it an easy name. What's an easy last name? Smith, right? Sarah Smith has just arrived, and we're going to make her logon name S. Smith. Click next, and we'll say user must change password at next logon. That would be quite secure. All right, password, we'll make her password just my default password just now. So let's do colleague $, Edinburgh colleague. All right, let's, oh no, I'm missing a character. Hold on, let's try this again. If the password requirement wasn't so strict, messed it up again, right? Oh, tell me. Right, I must have done the top one wrong. Hang on. $, capital E, Michael's colleague. Yeah, I did the first one wrong. So user must change password at next logon. So let's click next. Sarah Smith, finish. Okay. So now in Active Directory users and computers, we can see John Finance and Sarah Smith. So let's head back over to our domain. So here you go. Here's John. Okay, let's say it's John's first day or something. Here he is signed in, and we saw the out-of-box experience there. Let's click here. Okay, and let's go to that little thing there. And we should have a sign out button somewhere. Okay, it's a little bit fiddly on VirtualBox, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to do input, and I'm going to send Control-Alt-Delete in. Right. Let's sign out as John Finance, okay? So we're signing out, and I'll make the screen a bit bigger so it's easier to see again. Right, here we go. So let me just drag this up. I think acts as a... So at the moment, we've logged in as John Finance. Let's do other user, and let's log in as Sarah Smith, okay? Sarah Smith. And let's do password is $, and this horrible password again. Right, sign in. Here we go. User must change password before signing in. So let's click OK. So new password is going to be something like $, Sarah's college. I'm not very imaginative with these passwords. $, capital E at the end, Sarah's. No, I think it's going to give me an error here because it doesn't like you to have your username and your password, but we'll see. Yeah, unable, the value provided does not meet the length. Oh, right, okay. Let's think of something. Let's go $, capital E, Sarah should it be, Smith, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay. $, capital E, Sarah Smith, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, tell me I didn't just type that over there. Okay, $, capital E, Michael's College. And then down here we'll do $, capital E at the end, Sarah Smith, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, fingers crossed. Ah, okay, it's going to punish me. You get the idea here. Now, let me just head back and I'm going to show you one more trick with this. Now, we have, all right, John Finance here. Now, let's say John Finance has left the company. Or let's say we had a disagreement with John Finance and we don't want him to log in anymore. Or let's say something happened and he's moved on to pastures new. We right click here, okay, and we click on disable account. John Finance has been disabled. All right, and at the same time, let's fix Sarah Smith's password because we're never, ever going to get, I'll be there for all eternity. So let's just do reset password. And let's just make her password the normal domain password because otherwise I'll be there for 25 minutes. Michael's colleague, all right, $, capital E, Michael's colleague. All right, and let's unlock the account and let's say she doesn't change her password at first log on because otherwise we're going to be here all day. Right, Sarah Smith, password changed. So let's head back to the client and see if we can get in cancel. Right, let's do, okay, let's try and sign in as John Finance first of all and see what happens. So let's do $, okay. Let's see. Ah, look, your account has been disabled. Please see your system administrator. So John Finance can no longer log in. Let's try and log in as Sarah. So S Smith, and hopefully this will work because I just reset our password. So fingers crossed. Looks like we're in. Okay, so Sarah Smith's been able to log on. Now, what is the real power in this? The real power in this is the fact that we can have 100 computers, 1,000 computers, 10 offices of 500 computers all over the world, and we can have them all added to this domain, and we can centrally control who's allowed to log in, who's allowed to log out, who's a member of what group, who's a member of another group. So that's the real power in this. And what I've shown you how to do today, I think, might be enough to cover this assessment. Let me just see if I can get back to the server. Right, back to the server. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pause the video now. I'm just going to pull up the requirements for the assessment and have a look and see if I think I've covered everything. So let's just go more. Okay, so here is the product evidence for this J0HJ34 unit. So what we've gone over in this video and the last one is we've set up and configured with naming and IP addressing a small network with one client and one server. All right, we've got our Windows client, our Windows server. Now, install and configure endpoint hardening technology. That's something we can look at shortly. So that would be installing a firewall or something like that. Configure basic directory services. That's been done. All right, that's what we were doing there. Okay. Name resolution is when you ping sc.com and it comes back. Okay, I showed you how to do that. Create user accounts. We've done that with John Finance and Sarah Smith. Authenticate user accounts. All right, we've set up passwords for them. We've disabled accounts. We've shown that we can do that. Identify a suitable wireless device. That's not something we can do with this Windows server. So I think probably what we need to cover now is this DHCP and updates. So I can go in and I can show you how to do DHCP, and that probably should clear up quite a lot of I don't know, mysteries that we have. So at the moment, right, what we've done is we've got our client machine. on 10.10.10.2. And we set that manually. Okay, that is a static address. We have our server on 10.10.10.1. But what if we had 100 PCs? Or what if we had 10,000 PCs? Now, would it be viable to go around and log into every single one of them and right click on the two televisions down at the bottom, the little TV icon, and go to the change adapter settings, and then scroll all the way down and go to network and sharing center, right click, open up properties, scroll down to IP version 4, click properties, change the IP address, remember the one that you've given to that one, click apply, click close, 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 open up the command prompt, check what IP address it's got, and move on to the next one. If you had to do that even 50 times, you would probably make a mistake. You'd probably think, right, this is PC2, that's PC3, that's PC4. Someone would message you on Facebook, you'd look at your phone, you'd forget what PC you were on, you'd be on PC5, somebody would phone you, you'd go away and get a coffee, you'd mess it up. So the way that we issue addresses, and the way that's most common also in wireless networks, is to use DHCP. So how do we set up this server to be a directory server, which it already is? We know that the Active Directory is working. To be a DNS server, which it already is, but also to not only give out directory permissions, manage accounts, do DNS, we want it to give out IP addresses as well. So let's go to Tools and see. We should have a role here called DHCP, but we don't at the moment. So the classic way that you add things on to a Windows server is you go Manage, Add Roles and Features, ignore the first page. We want a role-based installation, we want it on this server, and then let's choose DHCP. Okay, so DHCP is the dynamic host configuration protocol. The client is the host, and we want to dynamically give it an IP address, okay? And it doesn't seem like such a useful thing when we only have one client machine, but if we had 500 of them, you would soon see this come into its own. So let's add this feature, DHCP, and let's click Next. Now, I think we just do Next all the way now, and then hit Install. Now, once this is installed, there's a little bit of configuration that has to take place, and then we can get this machine to start giving out IP addresses to new computers. So what we're actually doing is we're centralizing control, and ideally you want to get things to the point where you just take a computer out of the box, plug it in, and then you walk away. All right, we put the box in the recycling and walk away, and then it's automatically configured and added to your network. So this would be the next step in that, doing DHCP. So hopefully this won't take too long. Meanwhile, in the meantime, I'll head over to our client, okay? And we'll go and get the network and sharing center ready. So let's open network and internet settings, and let's go. Oh my, that's why it's on lower RAM. It's fairly struggling. Let's see how we're getting on over here. That's still installing. Let's see how we're getting on over here. Right, network and sharing center. Okay, and let's go change adapter settings. Okay, and let's right click on here, properties. Okay, now, why has this come up? This has come up because Sarah Smith is not an administrator. Okay, so she's not allowed to go in. You don't want Sarah Smith from accounts, who just started this morning, changing IP addresses on machines, do you? Realistically, unless she's a mate or something, unless she's working in IT, then we would probably have made her an administrator on the network. For example, if we jump back over to the server, open up the Active Directory, all right, we could right click on Sarah Smith, okay, and add her to the administrators group, the domain admins group. Okay, add to group we can do. If we type admin and click check, there's an administrators group we could put her in. But obviously, Sarah just turned up to do some spreadsheets. We don't want her reconfiguring the whole network. So let's just do this as administrator. Okay, So a likely scenario for this is someone says, my computer's not working, and you come down and you want to change it, and you don't want to go through the hassle of logging them on and off. So you might just want to quickly administrator, and let's just whack the password in. Okay. Michael's College. Ooh. Enter an admin password, right. Okay, let's do the admin password again then. Fingers crossed. Oh, have I spelled administrator right? Maybe we're going to have to come off as Sarah and go in as administrator. We'll give it another crack. Michael's.
You're missing a T on administrator.
Yeah, it's wrong. Yeah.
Brilliant. Right. No. Let's try this again. Thank you for that. That's okay. Okay. That's why it was looking. Now, I could have got around that by going back to the Active Directory, creating a user called administrator without a T, setting up a password for them and adding them to the administrators group. So that's a way that we could get around that if we want it to be really silly. Okay. All right. Boom, we're in. Great. Okay, let's go to TCP/IP version 4, properties. Right, so at the moment we've got this on use the following IP address on a static IP. Let's also open up the CMD prompt and let's do an IP config /all. And we can see at the moment that we have there's no information about DHCP in here at the moment, okay? So all we've got is we've got a DNS, okay? Now, jumping back over to the server, hopefully this should be finished by now. Let's just minimize the Active Directory. Great. The DHCP feature has been added. So let's click close. And once again, there's a little, so it says post-deployment configuration, complete DHCP configuration. So let's click here. And this is going to take us to a little helpful wizard that's going to make our lives much easier. So let's click next. Use the following credentials. That's fine. Oh, I think that's it. I think we just hit commit. Okay, close. That was hard work. Tools over here. And now you'll see that we have an option for DHCP. So click on DHCP. And this opens up another one of these MMC, Microsoft Management Consoles. All right. And a quick thing to show you as well, if I jump back to Server Admin and I go Dashboard, you'll see now we have a new role here, DHCP. All right, we got ADDS, DNS, now we've got DHCP. So let's head over to the DHCP Microsoft Management Console and let's right click on the domain IPv4. And we're going to right click and we're going to do new scope. And this wizard here, the new scope wizard, is going to create, so we're going to call it SC scope. All right, description, SC scope. SC's our domain, scope's the name. Start IP address. We want it to start at 10, 10, 10. Let's say we want it to start at 100. No. Let's make it start at 11 because we don't have this many computers. And the end IP address, we're going to do 10, 10, 10, I don't know, 20. We've only got one machine, so 9 addresses will be fine. And let's change this to 24. All right, so 255, 24 ones, that is. Okay, start. This is if we want to add exclusions. So let's say we had a printer and it was on 10, 10, 10, 15. We might want to say to the server, don't give anyone that address. That's the printer's address. Okay, exclude that from your issuing. Lease duration, leave it on 8 days. Okay, so every 8 days, the client machine will check, will say, can I still keep this address? Yeah, okay. Do you want to configure these options now? I do. Do I want to add a router? If we had a Cisco router somewhere, we could put the IP address of that in. Okay. And let's just leave the parent domain as sc.com. Okay, no wins server, and let's activate that scope. Wonderful. Now, we have a scope, okay, and if I could go in here and go address pool, we'll see the start address is 10.10.10.11, and the end address is 10.10.10.20. If we go to address leases, we'll see there are no address leases given out. So let's just head over to our client machine. Should be, if I click the right, okay. So the client machine, we're going to change this to obtain an IP address automatically, which is the default setting, okay? For the purposes of getting the network up and running, we put it on static. So at the moment, static addressing. Let's get it on obtain an IP address automatically. And let's leave the DNS server and let's just hit OK. Now, a quick way to check is let's just go TCP IP for, oh, nothing in there. That's not good. Let's click OK, let's click close. So if you find that the network at that, okay, there's a couple of ways we can do this. I'm just going to try and do an IP config again and see what happens, because sometimes, look at that. Look at the IP address. It's 10.10.10.11 now. It must have got that from the server. So now if we do, all right, if we do IP config /all, we should see somewhere here. Yeah, there it is. Look, DHCP server 10.10.10.1. So I know we've only got a small scope from 11 to 20, but let's say we were to go and dig out another 10 machines, another 8 machines, and plug them all in. The DHCP server would give it 10.10.10.12, 10.10.10.13, 10.10.10.14, 10.10.10.15. It would start giving them out automatically. So let's head back to the server and let's just check. Now, a really common thing for administrators to say to me is they'll go and shout me up and they'll say, come and look at this. We've got a client machine. It's connected to a server, but the address isn't showing up. And I'll be like this, right click, refresh. And I'll be like, there you go. There it is there. Aren't you brilliant? And they'll be like, oh, sorry, I didn't realize you could do that. And I'll be like, yeah. You have to right click. It's not as intuitive. If I closed it down and opened it up again, it would work. But now, what this is telling us is it's giving out a client IP address of 10.10.10.11 to the machine that's given out. Now, there are some things we can do with this. Let's say we didn't want that to change for some reason. We can give it a reservation. We can delete the lease. We can check on its status. We can do all sorts of things from the server side. And it obviously means that we can just pull out client machines and add them to the domain, and they'll automatically be given an IP address by the server. So hopefully that clears up some of the DHCP, and I can pause the video now and we can talk about what we want to do next. So just going to pause the recording. Okay, so in this part, we're going to look at some basic endpoint hardening, and I'm going to capture and show some DHCP traffic. So I think it says endpoint hardening somewhere here. I believe it did. I found it earlier. Okay, let's just, there it is there. Endpoint hardening and capture and show DHCP traffic. So, okay, let's try. Now, Microsoft, despite it being 2019, that this was released, it was actually released closer to 2020, decided to ship it with fully integrated Internet Explorer. So let's just see what happens when we open it. It doesn't even have Edge. Okay, I've seen this before. All right. So what we need to do now is we need to get this computer onto the internet, okay? Because we need to go and download Wireshark. Now, at the moment, if you remember, I set this up so that it was on a static IP, and that static IP 10.10.10.1 is not going to get it to the internet. So what we need to do is go and do a little bit of configuration in VirtualBox here. So hang on, I think let me just get that to go away. There we go. So let's go to settings and let's have a look at the network configuration. So at the moment, we've only got one adapter and it's on internal network called intnet. And what we actually need to do is add a second one. So let me just go and shut the machine down because it doesn't like doing it while it's on. So let's do shutdown. Other unplanned is fine. So let's shut that down. Just make that a wee bit easier to get between the two. And hopefully, once that's off, we should be able to go into settings here and make some changes. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a second adapter. All right, so it's off now. So let's just forget that. Okay, so we do not want to break the Active Directory, the DNS, the DHCP that we've set up with the static IP, because you remember our client machine has that DNS address configured that it needs to talk to the server to get its logon information, to get its IP address. So what we want to do is we want to plug a second network card into our virtual server. Okay, let's enable it. And this time, we don't want to put it on the internal network, because if we put it on the internal network, then it's only going to be able to speak to clients on that internal network. So let's put it onto NAT. And if you remember from last week, NAT is effectively internet only. Okay, it shares internet, it's network address translation. It translates its internet from the host. So let's just click OK. And let's start her up. And hopefully, we should have two network adapters now. Network adapter number 1 should be our intnet adapter on 10.10.10.1. Network adapter 2 should have it'll have a different address, and it'll be through my network adapter in my machine here, connecting to my home network here and getting out onto the internet. Evolves well that ends well, you know. Another thing that we're going to do while that's loading, because it's probably going to take an eternity to load, is get this computer primed for doing some changes. So let's just shut down some of this. Probably better minimize rather than real. Let's just shut down a few things here. Let's minimize that. And we want, okay, Windows Defender Firewall. Now, honestly, I did type that. So, if you remember from part 1, I didn't go to Windows Defender Firewall with Advanced Security. I just went to Windows Defender Firewall. So let's open that up. And I had to disable it, okay, to allow test pings to come in and out. Okay, here we go, administrator. And let's do the password, okay. Good, first time's a charm. It's unlike me. Right, let's leave that as it is, and let's grab a command prompt, and let's head back over to the server, and hopefully it's nearly booted up. Maybe I can edit this bit out on the video. A lot of just standing around. Here we go. Come on. Okay.
Paint drying.
Paint drying. Not as bad as part 1, which was...
That was great fun.
Real tedium. Right, input, keyboard, send, control, delete. There we go. I think if you do right control and C, that takes you into scaled mode, and the window will scale dynamically to size. Right, let's log in as administrator on the domain. Okay. Blah, 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 preparing Windows, da, 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 da. And hopefully now we should have a second network adapter that's going to allow us to get the best of both worlds. We're going to have internal networking on our intnet with 10.10.10.1. We're also going to have external networking through my home network here out to the internet. So let's click on start.
Michael, if you were doing that physically,
Mm-hmm.
A bit of a silly question, but
No.
but when you're talking about different adapters,
Yep.
how does that work actually?
It's an
I mean, I know
actual physical thing. I mean, I've got one
Yeah,
here. I
yeah.
can show you.
Just,
Right.
I mean,
Actually
I
got
think
one in a box
sometimes,
to hand.
because one of the problems working virtually is that you're working in virtual machines, but sometimes it's
Bit
hard
of a messy
to.
box, that. So yeah, what would happen is you would buy an actual network card that looks like an actual card. It's a green kind of thing, a PCI card, and it would actually slot into the server.
Yeah.
So you would have two Ethernet ports on the back of your computer that you could plug into. And as you can maybe see from the server here, if I hover over the thing down there, you see we've got two networks now. We've got one with internet access and one with no internet access.
Yeah.
So that's our internal and our external network.
Yeah.
Now, hopefully it's going to let me get into, it's working quite snappy now. Once it gets running, it's like a car that's been jump started. Once it gets, right, so let's go to the network and sharing center. And you should see now we should have two adapters. The moment of truth. Yes, there we go. So that's our second. All right, that's our NAT network adapter. Now, I believe I opened the command prompt here. If we do ipconfig/all now, ipconfig/all. Okay, let's just open this up because it's quite a few. So we now have a second network, this down here, 10.0.3.15. Okay, now I know off the top of my head that my router through in the other room there is on 192.168.101. So if I do ping 192.168.100.1, fingers crossed, there you go. So I know that now my virtual server can get to my real machine, out of my real machine, through the network in the house and speak to the skybox through there. So the real test now is, can it get beyond the skybox? Can it ping bbc.co.uk? Can it actually see the internet? Let's try that. Just thinking about it. Oh dear. Oh dear, I've never seen it take this long. Oh,
Hey.
it worked. Right, okay. So what it's doing is it's been able to resolve bbc.co.uk. It knows that that's the IP address there, 151.101, all right? And it's the BBC's replying. It took a little while because it had to do a lookup. But see if I do it again now, it'll happen much quicker. I hope so. Let's see. Yeah, there you go. Straight away, you know? So let's just go for Windows 64-bit. And then it's going to give me probably another prompt to tell me that my computer's in danger. Yeah. Add, close. Hopefully something should come up telling me that's downloaded. It's usually, here we go. So let's just double this up. Oh, it doesn't even let you save and open. Very tedious. Right. Can we double click on it? Open, there we go, run. Firefox is now installing. Right, while Firefox is installing, I'll try and get Wireshark by using the Internet Explorer search and see what happens quicker. If I can get oh, okay, hang on. This might be, we might be cooking with gas here. Let's just go through the painful various clicks. Whatever happens quicker, whether I get Firefox running or whether I get Wireshark, I'll run them both at the same time. So, how do you actually download the thing? Do we click
Michael?
here? Yeah.
How good is your computer? Because just obviously the experiencing we're getting now, like the RAM, some of the guys won't be working with anything with this, you know. So
well, like I said last time, it's not. I mean, hold on. I should be able to download this. Get help. This computer's not a brilliant computer. It's a Core i5 that I built myself. So, you know, I don't think you need the greatest computer in the world. You also don't have to have the client machine running in the background there. You don't, and be on a Zoom call and have 2 monitors running and be downloading software at the same time. If you were just running the server with Wireshark, I don't think it would put too much pressure on your computer. Why can't I just, you know what I'm going to try? I'm going to try and go off the rails here. I'm going to try and type wireshark.com/download and hope that the, oh, look at that. And hope that the web developers were normal people. There we go. So do we want the latest? We do want the latest. Let's click there. Close. And then click latest. Oh my God. Let's click add. See, hopefully Firefox will be running in a minute and we won't have to go through this extreme. Oh, it's up, it's up, it's up. Right. And then let's just do this. Isn't it much easier now? Right click on Internet Explorer, close. Okay, close all windows. Right click on it and unpin from the taskbar. And then now we never have to open it ever again. All right, we never have to see that browser ever again. Save file. And I mean, you could install Chrome or something, anything but that default Internet Explorer browser. So Wireshark's downloading now, about 40 seconds left. And then we should be able to capture some DHCP traffic. So let's just see. 26, 25, 24, 23, 22, 21. Let me do, I'll get the Wireshark installation started and then I'll show you the other step that I was going to do. So this is a little bit tedious. I mean, I don't have a particularly fast internet connection at home. I've just got standard ADSL. It's about 20 meg. So, all right. Go away. I think that's a hangover from earlier. Okay, let's do, click here and see if it'll just run. Come on. Hopefully we should get a launch box coming up. Ah, here we go. Next, I agree. Yeah, just agree to everything and then install. Okay, so if you'll remember, all right, at the very beginning on the client machine, I disabled the firewall to check that pings were going in. So if I do ping 10.10.10.11, oh, hold on, ping 10.10. I agree, install. All right, 10.10.10.11. I'm wondering if the client machine's changed IP address. Interesting. Let's head back over to the client machine and see what address it's got. Here she is. Pull this up. Sarah Smith. Okay. I'm wondering if the domain, let's do ipconfig on the client machine. Ipconfig 10.10.10.11. I'm wondering if when we added it to the domain, that showed, that secured it. Let me just, yeah, request timed out. Doesn't seem to like it. Okay. That's something we can look at in a bit. Completed. Next. Finish. This is a bit of a flashback to last week where we watched various servers install. Maybe I should pause the video just now till we get this booted up. I'll just leave it recording. Right, next. Okay, show news. I mean, come on. Really? I want to know news about Wireshark. Okay. Let's do Wire typed wire. I mean, I don't know how many bits of software on here I've got. Okay, Wireshark desktop app. Okay, so Wireshark, the packet capture or packet analysis tool. Now, do we want to capture traffic for DHCP on Ethernet 2? No, probably not, because that's Ethernet 2 is our pathway to the internet through my house. What we do want to capture is traffic on Ethernet 1. So let's just click play, or the little shark fin, the blue thing, to start capturing packets. So let's start and see what's happening on Ethernet 1. Let's just see what's going on. Okay, doesn't look like very much, does it? Oh, DNS queries between the client and the server running. So let's just stop that, okay? And let's say, all right, we're going to go over to the client, and we're going to try and make it ask for a new IP address. So let's just come out of Windows Defender here, close that down, and hopefully I've still got the network and sharing center. Yes, I do. Change adapter settings, Ethernet, properties, administrator, $, capital E. Brilliant, first time. Okay, let's go here and let's just use the following IP address and let's put it on 10.10.10. How annoying, I'm not even typing. 10.10.10.3. Subnet mask should be 255 and 255. Okay, now the only reason I'm doing this is to take it off of DHCP. Okay, the next thing we want to do is probably go back in there, because I'm immediately going to take that administrator $, capital E. And if you get a good password that you're happy with, you can start to put it in faster. Your sort of irritating 15-character password. Okay, so at the moment, we are ready to capture the process of DHCP. Now, DHCP packets, okay, follow a specific, so DHCP process. Okay, DHCP packets follow a specific process. So what happens is, let's see if we can get this open here, open link in a new tab, go to the new tab. Oh, open image in new tab I want. Open image in new tab. Go to the tab, zoom in. Right. So what happens when we join a network with DHCP? The first thing that happens is, so let's say you go into Costa Coffee or Starbucks and you decide you want to go through the painful process of joining their Wi-Fi. You get your phone and you find the Cafe Nero Wi-Fi or My Coffee Shop Wi-Fi. Now, what actually happens is your phone sends out a broadcast message called a DHCP Discover message, and it says, "Hello, I am a phone and I want to go to the internet, but I need an IP address, and I am just a normal person in a coffee shop. I don't know how to set up a manual static IP address on my phone because I'm more concerned about getting an Americano and some kind of biscuit." So you would hope that your phone will take care of that. Otherwise, you'd be there for hours typing it in. So the phone sends out a DHCP Discover. Luckily, Costa Coffee have a router in the corner with a DHCP server alive. The DHCP server says, "Here is an offer. I will offer you 10.10.10.11. Would you like to accept that?" And then your phone, the client, will say back, "I am accepting that DHCP request," and it will broadcast it to everywhere. And the reason it broadcasts it is in case there are other DHCP servers listening. It wants to make sure that it's accepting the particular one that it's accepting. So the details are in the message. So you say, "Yes, I would like that." Then your server will return a DHCP ACK, an acknowledgement, and it will say, "There you go. I acknowledge that you've got that. You've got that address now for an hour or so." So that's how the basic DHCP process works. So we're going to try and capture that. Why don't we jump over to our client and see if it's got an IP address? Let's just see, because we'll know then straight away that it's working. Look at that, it's working. But what that hasn't done is that hasn't captured the DHCP process. So I'm going to be incredibly brave here, and I'm going to now break that again and then see if we can get that, because I'm confident that we will get that IP address again, even if I break it. So let's do, while the server's loading in the background, let's just go properties, put in administrator, $, capital E, put the wrong password in, Michael's colleague. Right, come on you horrible little client machine. Okay, use the following IP address. 10, 10, 10. Of course, it's not going to let me type. 10, 10, 10, 99. Let's just be absolutely mental with this. This is as crazy as you get with Windows servers. Right. Close. And let's head back to the server. Now, that's not the server, that's the client. Server, where are you? Here's the server here. Okay, so let's do Windows key and R, get this up, and let's do ping 10.10.10.99. Okay, I think the firewall's still blocking this. Let's head over to the client, and let's just make sure that we've applied that. Okay, properties, administrator, $, and then we want Michael's colleague, capital E at the end. Brilliant, we're in. Properties, okay. So at the moment, we have that on 10.10.10.99. We should be able to verify that over here by doing IP config. Yes, 10.10.10.99. Right, let's finally capture the DHCP process. So let's do back to the server, and let's open Wireshark. I typed Wireshark, so hopefully this should open. I'm confident that it's going to work this time. It's not going to be too aggressive with me. So let's just minimize that, and we should only have Wireshark. When it eventually decides to load. Okay, so hopefully there should only be one adapter on here because we disabled the other one to stop this. Okay, yeah, just Ethernet. So let's do start the capture. Not capturing anything at the moment. Okay, let's head back to the client machine, which is here, and let's go obtain an IP address automatically. Let's hit OK and close, and that applies it, identifying straight away sc.com. I guarantee you when I type IP config, it's going to say 10.10.10.11. So let's do IP config. Yes, 10.10.10.11. Now, if we head over to our server and let's just stop the capture. I think everything's fine. Stop. Okay. Make this a bit bigger and let's filter this on DHCP. DHCP. All right. Look at that. That makes so much more sense. So it started off with a DHCP discover. So the client machine said, please give me an IP address, okay? Then the server replied from 10.10.10.1 and said, here is a DHCP offer. And if we open this up down here, we can actually see inside the protocol what's going on. So it's a reply. We can see what length it is. We can see your client, what the server is, if there's a relay agent, there's all sorts of extra flags in there. Then the client replied with an acknowledgement, and it said, here is a request. Here's what I'm going to accept as my DHCP address. It's a bit confusing that it's called a request, but basically it says the requested IP address is going to be 10.10.10.11, and my server is going to be 10.10.10.1. Okay, and the last bit coming back from the DHCP server is the acknowledgement, and it says, here's a rebinding time value, a renewal time value. Here's the type of message it is. Here's the domain name server. Maybe if we open out this, yep, there it tells you that the DNS server's 10.10.10.1. The subnet mask, it tells you, is 255. The lease time is 8 days, if I remember correctly. And there it is there, 8 days. And I don't know about renewal time. Off the top of my head, 4 days for renewal. Yes, 4 days. 4 days time for renewal. And DHCP message type is just going to be an acknowledgement. Now, what we're seeing up here on the top in Wireshark is we're seeing a kind of high level overview. So the message is a DHCP ACK, what address it's going to and what order it's in. In the middle, we're seeing the details of this packet here that's been captured. Okay, we're seeing the individual details. And at the bottom, we're seeing what that looks like in its raw form, what the actual binary data looks like, represented in hex. But we're seeing what it, so if I click here on this ACK, believe it or not, that ACK is just a 05 in binary. And that makes total sense because it says up here, DHCP ACK is option number 5. So to send that to the computer in some order in this message, if that bit there was a 6, that would mean something else. And we can check what option is a DHCP request, for example. It's number 3. And likewise, look down in the binary there, it sends a 3 inside the message, and that shows that it's a request. So I think that covers capturing DHCP traffic on the network.